My name is Harriet Musoke, and having attained an SJD at Emory, and now I have a title of doctor. So I'm Dr. Harriet Musoke. I'm from Uganda, and Uganda is a country in East Africa, neighboring Kenya and Tanzania. Sometime in 2001, I was doing my master's at Georgetown School of Law. And Professor Martha Feynman called us. We were a group of African women who had come to do our masters. So she invited us to Cornell University to go and talk about our papers that we were writing for the master's thesis. And while there, we presented our papers, and that's the first time I met Professor Martha Feynman. And I told her about my interest in pursuing an SJD, and I told her my area of interest was reproductive and sexual rights. And she said, okay, that's very good. So I applied to Cornell University, her as my chair for the committee. And in 2004, I was admitted at Cornell. But that was the time when Martha was moving to Emory. So she said, well, I'm leaving Cornell. Are you coming with me? I said, of course I'm coming with you. So I said, okay, so that's how we came, that's how I came to get to Emory. And when we got to Emory at that time, there was no SJD program. So it was Professor Feynman, through her hardship, that the program started. And I was the first SJD student at Emory School of Law, and I'm really proud of that. I started 2004, August 2004. That's when I started my classes under the chairmanship of Professor Feynman. And that was the time also because they had introduced, when Professor Feynman moved from Cornell, she moved with the Feminism and Legal Theory project. So when I came in as an SJD student, I used also to do some research for the FLT, commonly known as the FLT program, which to date I'm still affiliated to. I was looking at the issue of corporate governance and reproductive rights. So I was looking at those two areas, how women can be able to juggle both home reproductive rights, home sexual rights, and all those issues that rotate around that. And because after that program, the master's program, we had to have a 6 months internship. So I had my internship at the Center for Reproductive Rights, which has its headquarters in New York, but I was based in Washington. So that's how I came in. And even when I, at my doctoral thesis, I wrote on Africanization of reproductive and sexual rights, the Ugandan experience. Recently, the African nations, our presidents sat and they adopted a protocol on the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. And that protocol is a protocol on women. And in one of those articles on that protocol, Article 14, it gave women a right to exercise their reproductive and sexual rights, and imposed an obligation to the states to ensure that women have the right and the freedom to exercise these rights. So what I was looking at, and what I wanted to find out is, how are we going to Africanize? Because when you look at the definition of reproductive and sexual rights and health at the international level, it mostly looks at it as an individual, a woman's individual, right. But then when you get to Africa, it's somehow different, because Africa, we are communitarian, and everything we have to do, whatever you make a decision about, you have to do it taking the community into account. So I was looking at it, how can we be able to get the international aspect, the African aspect, and how are we going to be able to make sure that we Africanize the exercise of these rights? And I looked at Uganda as my study area. I had the facilities of the FLT, and there has been so many, because of the many workshops that have been taking place, many people have been talking about this area. So I was able to read and understand clearly the issue of reproduction and sexuality. So I got a lot of resource from that, and even the library, because there was a lot of resource on it. And with that, then I was able to clearly more understand and be able to write, looking at the international perspective and then afterwards the African perspective. I think the favorite thing about Atlanta was the weather. I think it was not as cold. And I really thank Professor Feynman because she said, let's come together to Atlanta, because I don't think I would have managed Cornell, because Cornell is really cold. But Atlanta, I haven't had a very big problem. The weather was really a bit friendly. Yeah, even in winter time, it was friendly. Yes, immediately I graduated, I went back. Well, I was here for about 2 weeks, and then afterwards I went back home. And when I went back home, I went back to my teaching, because I'm a lecturer at law, and I teach family law and human rights. So I went on back to the institute where I was teaching. And because I got my SJD, I also teach in another university called the Islamic University in Uganda, and I teach at the females campus. And currently what I'm doing, we are discussing with the Senate and the University Council. I'm trying to introduce a course on public health and reproductive health and human rights. And hopefully, when they get to understand the issue of feminism, then we can bring in Islam and feminism. But that's something that I'm really trying to work up so that they can be able to appreciate it. And also maybe in addition to that, following my studying here and having got that my SJD, my name somehow was picked to be among the international experts, and we are holding consultative meetings to draft a global public health manual. So I sit on that experts committee, and we've had meetings in Rome and Cairo, and we are trying to come up with a manual. And we are doing it all under the umbrella of the World Health Organization. By then I was working at just a postgraduate institution, because in my country, the National Council for Higher Education is very clear that if you are to be a professor or a lecturer at law, you must have an SJD or a PhD. So it was good when I came for this. Now I can teach in a university, and I start with the title of senior lecturer. And then with that, they always encourage that the area that you worked on, you should always bring up a syllabus and make sure that you are able to teach it. So I proposed, right now we are discussing reproductive health and human rights, public health law, and I'm trying to convince them if they can't allow me to teach it at the females campus, I'm trying to teach it at the main campus where they have both male and female, so that we can have Islam and feminism. Back home, that area is a very, very sensitive area. You know, issues concerning women's body are very sensitive. So it's not something people talk out in the public. And in fact, when they ask me, what did you write about, I always tell them, well, I wrote about reproductive health and sexual health and rights. And people always say, wow, where did you get that topic from? But well, so many situations brought me up, following what I saw relatives of mine go through, having an abortion and everybody shunning her, others getting married when they were still young, and they have to get children as many as possible, you know, until the uterus gets tired, and maybe at that point the person passes away. So I had this idea in mind. Even that's why at my level at the LLM, that's why I got interested in that area, because it's not an area people think about. They think it's something that is private and nobody should talk about it. So that's why I got interested, and that's why I want to introduce it at the undergraduate level, so that people come to appreciate it. While here, because I was under Professor Feynman and the FLT project, one thing that I really appreciate about this project is the number of visiting scholars and the number of people I met. When I just come in, I met a lady from Iran, Ruja, and although she lives in Dublin, and she really taught us a lot about Iran and a lot about the Islamic faith. You know, we came to appreciate it more because were all the time carrying out research, and I'll tell her about Uganda, she would tell me about Iran and about, you know, Ireland. And then we also had a chance to meet another visiting scholar by the name of Rabia Buhuhiani. I hope that is the right pronunciation. She's from Bangladesh. I mean, she was a very powerful person in Bangladesh. She was a whole minister. She was a member of parliament. So through that interaction, we got this, you know, this international aspect. We got another visiting scholar, Monday, and she was from Tanzania. We were able also to discuss, and her area was on land and women's rights in Tanzania. We got to learn so much about that. And then we had another visiting scholar, Fiona. Fiona was from London, you know, and we sat and, you know, Shazia, you know, she was from Pakistan. So the kind of people we were able to meet here were so many. It's like that we were able, I mean, we had Emily. Emily was from Italy. So we would sit and say, today we're having an African dish, or today we're having an African talk, and this time it was Italian, this time it was, you know, Bangladesh. So that kind of interaction, the international aspect that we got is very good, because even up to now, when I need anything about anything Islamic or about Iran, I just send an email to Ruja. I need anything from Bangladesh, I just get in touch with Rabia. So it is the good thing, and the good thing about it is we continue to interact. Oh, we had somebody else from China, Kim. We had another lady, I think young, and she was from, I think, Taiwan or Korea. So you can see the kind of interaction that we have, I think, has been very, very good. And as I was talking to Professor Feynman recently, I said, I think we should have an alumni get-together, because we come from different places, and I think it would be very nice to get the experiences that we've had and the good work that we've got and out of the FLT program. Very much. That's why I always try as much as possible that I have to come back to Atlanta to the FLT program at least once a year or twice, if I can afford it. If I can't, at least once, because I know every time I come, I'll find there's somebody else, and we'll be able to talk, and I'll be able to find their new materials and new workshops and new people and new ideas, because with those ideas, they have really helped me up in my outlook about various aspects of reproduction, of sexuality, of women's rights, of feminism. So in that way, it has enriched my knowledge about those issues about women. Following the FLT, having worked here, and the fact that then I was chosen to be on this panel of experts, one of our meetings I met a lady from Brazil, and she said she had heard about the program, and she was lucky I was with them, and she asked me to write an article, and she wanted to write about something, reproductive and sexual rights in Africa. So I came in to work on that article, finish it up, and also to come up and carry out some research, because I need to write something about Islam and sexuality. There's a project that I'm supposed to write on. So I came here to get more ideas, and hopefully when I go back, because the university where I am, I told them I would want to do a lot of research here, and they said, okay, write out a proposal, bring it, maybe they can be able to allow me, and I come back and I'm able to carry out more research, because there are very many facilities here which can enable me to carry out the research that I want to do. Yeah, so that's what I'm working on, and I submitted the article yesterday, and right now I'm working on having this proposal ready so that I can put it for funding, and we see what we can be able to do. First thing that I would really want to talk about is to really thank Professor Feynman for having come up with that project, because I think, and many people will testify, many people have really benefited from the project. Not only from the project and the program, the books that are there, but even the facilities, but even the workshops, the various workshops that we always have. Because at those workshops, we get so many professors, people who have been in the area for a long time, and we always sit and they tell us and they educate us and they even show us where we can be able to get resources. So that's the first thing I would really like to say. Thank you to Professor Feynman, and I think that should be something that should continue, because I think it's a good work and there are many people applying. You know, FLT, how can I be able to get there? A friend of mine in Uganda were with at LLM when we went together to Cornell. When I told her I was coming, he said, "Can you please talk to Professor Feynman and also come in?" I said, "I'll talk to her and we'll see if you get the chance also and come in." So I think that's a very good thing, and I think I encourage let the program bring in more scholars, because I think this is a very good thing. Many of us who knew nothing about issues about feminism and all its aspects and the development and its effect on women or on gender or on the environment itself, now at least we are really enlightened. And the people we've met, I think now it's no longer going to, now it's going to be a global village, because we know each other and we always continue communicating with each other. Many people are vulnerable, but the most people who are vulnerable, of course, are the women, because we're looking at our cultures, the political aspect, the economic aspect, they're the most vulnerable. And because they're that, they need somebody to come up and talk for them. And because just as anybody who will have a chance to look at my dissertation, looked at what is the women's, or what is the women's movement, what is the feminist movement in Uganda, and you'll find that much as women have been brought up on board and yes, in the public sphere, nothing much has been done in the private sphere. So because of the vulnerability of women, it's women who are disadvantaged economically, socially, some are disabled. Now with that vulnerability, that is the target group that we want to look at, such that we are able to help them, even if we don't help them financially, but at least to enlighten them. And they know that much as they're vulnerable, at least they're able something, and there's hope. You know, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, that their rights one day will be considered. And the issue, recently the country, my country enacted a law on Persons with Disabilities Act. So now we're trying to look at various policies that we can come up and help those kind of vulnerable people. One, I really want to look at now one group of women who are really vulnerable, who actually, that's the main reason even why they put an Islamic university in Uganda and they had a females campus, is because for a very long time the Muslim people think women should do, I mean, yes they are submissive, but they have not been brought up to get much education. And that's why the reason why we had the females campus. So my goal is that I teach at this university because they're only female, because I want to make sure that also these women come up and we have, so that we can have as lecturers, in female lecturers who can teach issues on Islam. So my main goal is, if I can be able to have this research, Islam and sexuality, and come up and people come to understand that you can discuss that issue without any fear or favor, that, well, I've talked about Islam and I've added it and sexuality, and there's no problem with that. And my goal is to continue lecturing, hopefully even publish and go on and on, because my area that what I really want is to be in lecturing, to give out the knowledge I've also acquired and pass it on to other people, and also be able to write and look after my 4 children until they get married and they're no longer dependent on me. Yes.